Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today on Masechtas Bava Kama Daf Nun Dalid. We're going to begin on the bottom of Nun Gimel Midbeis, about 5 lines from the bottom. Nafal Seichel Shor, Vikela V'Nishtabru V'Chulu. So this goes back to our Mishnah that says the following. In the event that you have a ox and kalim that fell into it, namely into a pit, or it says chamor v'kelev v'niskaru, and they got ripped up, the garment got ruined. So chayav al behemo pater al kalim. So the Mishnah says you're chayav for the animal, those damages, but not for the kalim. So masnisin deloy Rabbi Yehuda. Sani Yehuda oimer machayav al niski kalim babor. Now our Mishnah says that a kli falls into a boar and it gets damaged. The din is that you're going to be pater. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, so clearly our Mishnah is not like him. So now we have a machlokas. Let's try to understand it better. So my time to Rabbanan. Why do the Rabbanan say that when it comes to a kli that falls into a boar, you're pater? So Yamikraba nafal shama shor chamor, and the drashas we've had many times is shor v'lo adam, chamor v'lo kelim. It's only if an ox falls in are you chayiv, but not if a person falls in, because you should have been more careful. You should be more alert and aware, and therefore you shouldn't have fallen into the pit. A chamor v'lo kelim. So therefore that's the drush. Rabbi Yehuda is lo rabus as kelim. That says the word that's actually coming to include kelim that you're going to be chayiv. Rabbanan, as we continue to Nun Daled and Aleph. Miboyle l'chalik. He says you need it to make a difference or distinction. Says Rashi, for some reason, you even have this havami, and it's only if a shor and a chamor both fall. But if only one animal would fall, maybe it would be pater. And it says v'nafal, which has the language that it means it's lashon yachid, which means even one animal, says Rashi. Rabban v'nafal tova mashmo, and it fell can mean a lot. And Rashi quotes various psukim, v'asa b'tzal v'aliyav. So b'tzal and aliyav, when it came to the construction of the Mishkan, it says v'asa. So even though it's two people, it could still v'asa could not just be lashon yachid. Same thing with v'nafal. Same with v'nafal klal. That's more generic. Shor v'chamor is prat, and therefore you end up having a klal prat in b'chal masha b'prat. What is the prat? Shor v'chamor in mid'achmin eloi. Maybe it's dafka these animals, nothing else. She'amri bal habor yishalim chazav v'kol. Therefore you have a klal prat and klal, and we know the din is that you have to know kein prat. So what is kein haprat? Ma prat, just like shor v'chamor meforish. Bali chayim, they're animals of kol bali chayim, and therefore it comes to exclude kalim. So if that's how we want to make this connection, this klal prat and klal, then ma prat meforish davar sheniv lasim etam b'mag v'masa. Av kol davar sheniv lasim etam b'mag v'masa of oifay salai. So maybe it's only referring to an animal in which, when it becomes an avela, it's matam of the levels of touching or lifting up, which is not when it comes to an oif. We don't have that din when it comes to oif. That an oif is not matama b'mag v'masa. It's nevela, it's carcass. So it's going to come to exclude a bird. If a bird falls in, why would you think they'd be pater there? So it should maybe only say one prat. It should say o shor, o chamor, one of them. So hainichta, which one should it say and which one should it leave out? So ikos of shor havamina karvagam mizbeachin shina karvagam mizbeachloi. So maybe it's only the chiyuv is only if an animal in which could have been potentially brought in the mizbeach, and therefore the chiddush is he needs to mention chamor. So ikos of chamor havamina kaddish bebachar in shin kaddish bebachar loi. So therefore, when it comes to a chamor, it's kaddish even at the very even b'bechayra as bechor, but not when it comes to other animals. For example, Rashi says susim, gemalim, horses, camels. So therefore, you actually will need both shor and chamor. So therefore, maybe we should exclude birds. El omer krab hamesi aloi. Kol davar misa. It means anything that dies, which would include a bird. So ben Rabbanan deka b'maylo hula kalim ben Rabbi Huda deka mirabi leila kalim. According to them, whether or not the machlokas is totally and whether you include or exclude kalim. Kalim b'nei Misa, then who? You could still ask the question. It has nothing to do with Misa. If the pasuk says beferish that it says v'amesi elo, obviously it's referring to things that could die. So how about a kli? So Amri, the Gemara says a very fascinating answer. Shvirasan zuhim asisasan. No, a kli could die. Death doesn't mean it's alive and then physically dies. It means that it no longer serves its purpose anymore. It can't function. So a kli, in its inability to function because it broke, is key like it's dead. And therefore, based on that, you would still maybe need a riboy or miyit. Now, we already mentioned a couple blot ago, Machlokas Rav and Shmuel. The Rav says the only time you're chayiv if an animal falls into a pit is dafka l'havoylu, because of the foul air, which we said the animal, it says, falls face forward, and therefore it suffocates from the lack of proper oxygen. But the bang on the ground, you're not going to be chayiv on karka oilam. So, according to this sheet of Rav, bein lo rabbanan, focusing more on the rabbanan, but bein lo rabbanan ben Rabbi Huda, kel b'nei havolan inhu. Understand? We're talking about something that the odor is going to affect the animal from being able to breathe. But what does that have to do with a kli? So Amri b'chadati, we're talking about a new kli. Rashi says for some reason it's translated it's chadashim. It's new. Dimifkoi mehavla, that it shattered due to the air. That actually the poor air quality could somehow go into a new kli, which is more fragile because it's never been used, and it could actually damage it to that extent. So that's the explanation. Okay, so let's slow down for a second, and let's look at question TA12. L'Rav debor shechai v'tayro havav l'chavatay my shaykh b'kelim havola. So how is it shaykh? So as we said, it's referring to a new kli in which it could be destroyed. B'chadati demifkli mahavola. It could get ruined from this odor. Okay, let's look at question 1. Okay, so let's do. There's 2 questions here actually. L'Rav di'amr boru havav l'chavato yimatzricha rabbanan kra l'may kelim d'la b'nei havolinhu. So how is it shaykh to understand according to them? And then the second question would be Hudan v'chaim kelim b'bor ma'ilo mamati m'mesi aloi d'la b'nei misninhu. So these questions are out of order. Kelim shvirasas m'si sauce. It's like it's dead. And also we're talking about kelim chadashim, these new vessels, as we mentioned, that taka the haval is enough. Okay, so question 1 is 2 parts. Now let's go back to the Gemara. So hi, the pasuk of Amesi Eloi miboyle karava. You can't make this drasha to teach us what we've been learning because we actually need this pasuk to teach the din of Rava. Who is that? Rava shor psul hamikdashim. When it comes to the ox of psul mikdashim, says Rashi shenifta, that it was redeemed. This ox was redeemed. Ein hamisa shaloi. So we know that you don't have access to this animal and all of its rights, as we said many times. As Rashi says, that after it's redeemed, nonetheless, tizbach lo giza, you can't shear the wool, basev lo yichal, you can't take its milk, and more importantly, the last part, v'yachaltav lo klavecha. You can eat it, but you can't give it to your animals because you're not allowed to redeem. You're not allowed to redeem kodshim in order to feed it to your animals. So we need the drasha to teach us this. So what happens? That such an animal is potter. Why should because you own the animal, which means you have complete rights to it. It's not yours because you can't give it to your klavim, so it doesn't have full rights to you. So we already have this pasuk to teach us something else. El Omer Kram Kesev Yashiv L'Balav. It says the Kesev should go back to the owners. L'Rabos Kol D'Islei Balim. Anything which has an owner. So that's what it's coming to tell us. It's anything that has an owner. So ihachi afil kelim adam nami. So then why would we exclude Adam v'Kalim? Because, okay, I don't know about Adam, but certainly Kalim has an owner. So why would we exclude Kalim? L'chayr, you should include it because it has an owner. So I'm across shore v'lo Adam chamor v'lo Kalim. Rabbi Yehuda the kamarabi l'hu. Okay, so that's the reason why I have this drasha. Okay, and Rabbi Yehuda the kamarabi l'hu Kalim, that he actually includes Kalim, a kli that falls into a bore. According to him, you are chayiv. The bishlam is shore might lay Adam. Shore excludes person. El chamor my mamaitle. What does he do with that? Just stam. What does he do with that part? The word chamor. El omerava chamor debor. Rabbi Yehuda v'sed aveda l'dibri kol kasha. You're right. When it comes to the word chamor, when it comes to the din of a bor, to Rabbi Yehuda that's a difficulty because according to him, there's no drasha for it. It's not coming to exclude kalim because he includes kalim. And when it says seh, when it comes to an aveda, let's look at Rashi. Kivan, so seh, kivan diksiv l'chol aveda sachicha, anything that's lost, lomali, the kasav achmana chamor, shor v'seh salma, v'perik el matzias, darshin luhu lukuhu bar miseh. Everything is darshan except for saying goes. And if anyone knows this answer, I'm going to carry your garment, l'bei masusa, I think to the bathhouse. I believe that's the lashon of the Gemara over there. So it ends up going all the way down, then it goes backwards to try to get to seh, but again, there's no logical reason why seh is necessary. That should be inclusive of all the other things. Okay, again, you have to see the Gemara over there, that it breaks it down again, etc. Okay. And then the Mishnah says, Nafal Seicha Shor Cherish V'Katan Chayav. So let's look at the Mishnah, a couple blot back. The Mishnah says, toward the end of the Mishnah on Yud Beis Amud Aleph, it says that let's say an ox which is deaf, the ox is deaf, or is a deranged ox, or a katan ox, you're going to be chayiv if these things fell in. Okay. And then it says, Beino bas evido ama potter, which we saw in Rashi, Afagav de katanim hain, V'leikol memory boil hu inui mazel feel hachi potter exerts a kosav. Basically, if you have a little boy or a little girl, so we said by Adam, okay, you should have seen the pit. But the din is, the Mishnah mentions that even if it's a little kid that falls into the pit also. So Adam doesn't, when we say excluding Adam, it doesn't mean an adult as opposed to a child. Children are included in that. Okay. So my shor chereshet v'katan ilim shor shel cheresh shor shel shoyte shor shel katan hashor shel pikech potter. So we're saying maybe it means the owner is a shaita, but which is mashma. If it's a shor that belongs to a pikech, so you're going to be potter. So we're saying again, the shore of a cheresh you're chayiv. So the shore of a pikech you're going to be potter. Doesn't make any sense. If the animal fell in and the owner is a pikech, so why would he not be able to receive those monies? So it can't be referring to the owner. So that's why Rabbi Yochanan shor shehu cheresh, shor shehu shoyte, shor shehu katan. We're talking about not the owner, but we're talking about the ox itself as we continue to nun dalam and base. So shor shehu pikech potter. So you're telling me, therefore, again, you can ask the same kasha, a shore which is a healthy shore, it falls in the pit, you're going to be potter for paying those damages? That doesn't make sense either. So I'm Rabbi Yirmiyah Loma Boy Karmer. This is a Loma Boy. Loma Boy Shor Shehu Pikech the Chayiv, certainly a Chayiv. Of a Shor Chereshet of a Katan, when it comes to these different animals that have problems, or young, Ema Chershuso Garmaloi. Maybe its deafness caused it to fall. Maybe it's the ox's fault that it fell in there. Or Katnusu Garmal, because it's so small. But Liftar, and it's interesting why it doesn't mention Shaita. Okay. Kamash Malan, that it doesn't, we're going to still say you're chayiv. You're always chayiv. No matter what, any of these animals are going to fall and you're going to be chayiv. So, Emily Rav Achla Ravina, Ivo signed in Evel Seicha Bar Das Potter. It says if a Bar Das falls, then you're Potter. So, my love, shore Bar Das. So, isn't it referring to the shore, which is a Bar Das, you're Potter? Emily Lo, Adam. We're talking about a person. Miyata Adam ben Das hu the Potter Halav Hachi Halav ben Das hu the Chayiv Sharvel Adam Ksiv. We already said that there's no distinction. When a person falls into the pit, you're always going to be Potter. Elamai ben Das min ben Das. Says Rashi, what's a min ben das? Hainu Adam v'afil hu shaita min ben dasu. So in other words, it doesn't matter who the Adam is. It's referring to a min ben das, which means even though he's a shaita. Armulei ayvosanya nafel seichasher ben das potter. So how do you deal with that? El omaravel maskana is what we say. Shor v'hu cherish, shor v'hu shaita, shor v'hu katan, davka. Only in those situations. Although shor through pikeach potter, tak, it's true that if a shor, which is a healthy shor, falls in, you're going to be potter. So my timer, the boile nui mazel. Interesting. You have to know the brain of this ox. If it's a healthy ox, it shouldn't have fallen in. Therefore, maybe it's its fault. Therefore, you're not going to be chayav. Tani bihachi. Nafal seicha shor cherish shait v'katam asumar, it's blind. U'mahalach b'layim l'chayav. Or at night, you're chayav. Pikeach mahalach b'yoyim potter. If the animal's a pikeach and it's walking in the middle of the day, it shouldn't have fallen in. So therefore, it's true that you're potter. So this is an unbelievable thing that a lot of people don't know when they think about this, the basics of Bava Kama. They think, oh yeah, an ox that falls into a pit, you're chayav. It's not true. That's only in a situation where it's a pikeach ox at night. If it's a pikeach ox during the day, then Taki would be potter because he boily and nuye. Question 2. Nafal shor cherish babor. Nafal shor pikeach babor. Mahadin. So this is what we just saw at the very end. A shor cherish is chayiv. Shor pikeach b'yoyim potter b'layla chayiv. Because if it's at night, so the animal couldn't see. Also, if the animal's a cherish, the reality is you can't say iboyle nuye because it doesn't have the ability to guard itself. It doesn't have that. It's not a bar das. Let's see the next Mishnah. It says the Masnis. Echad shor ve'echad kol behema. When it comes to an ox or any animal for that matter, regarding the following dinim, we say when the filas habor, when we're dealing to any animal that falls into the pit, the din's the same. Or hafrashas harsinai. What is that referring to? Says Rashi, im behema im ish ksiv anan marbinan chayiv oif b'gemara. So at Harsinai, animals were not allowed to go. It was the shlish megvol. They couldn't go beyond the borders, and therefore it didn't matter what animal it was. Also, tashlumi kefel, if someone stole an animal, you have to pay double. It doesn't matter what kind. Shavas aveda, and when it comes to returning a lost animal, it refers to all of them. Laprika, when it comes to unloading the animal. Lachasima, when it comes to muzzling the animal. L'kilayim, says Rashi, the harva, when it comes to mixed breeding them. Rashi says v'chein le'inin kilayim the hanhaga deloy tachash v'shav v'chamor. It's also coming to include that if you have two different species of animals, they shouldn't be plowing side by side. Ula Shabbos. Also, when it comes to Shabbos, with the vehem techa, you're not allowed to work your animals. Okay. V'chein chayav oif. Not just domesticated animals, but non-domesticated animals and birds is the same thing. So why does it say those things? It gives examples of that which is the most common animals, I guess, that would typically fall into a pit. Says the Gemara. So in the filas habor kesef yashiv lebalov ksiv. It says you're supposed to return the loss to the owner. So called the isle balim, anyone who has any animal which has ownership, doesn't matter what kind. Kid Amron. Well, Afrashas Harsinai im behema im ishol yechia, as Rashi said, v'chai b'chal behema havi. So Chai is in the same category as a behema. And it says im is arabasas oifais. That birds also can't go above. Latashal be kefel, to pay double of what's stole. Kedamrinan al kedamrinan, like we already said. I guess we already said it. Okay. I think we need some chazar here. Al kol davar pesha. This is Kol davar pesha klal. Kol davar pshia, anything in which is a pshia. Okay, so that taka is referring to hashava, referring to teshuv kefil. Okay, or at least a pikadain, or okay, shvos pikadain maybe. Hashava saveda, returning lost object. V'chol avidas achicha, anything that your brother loses. Laprika, when it comes to unloading an animal, yo chamor meshabas. So we're making Sarah Shava. Lachasima, when it comes to muzzling an animal, yo shor mishabas. So we learn all these different drushes from Shabbos, different Xer Shavas, that it comes to all the animals are the same. With kilayim, so as we said, it's either mixed breeding, or having them plow for the same field. So iklayim decharisha. Again, if it's referring to the plowing, so yov shor mishavos. Imiklayim deharvav has to do with, again, mixing as far as breeding. Yov behemtacha mishavos. Okay. So however it is, we are learning different Xer Shavas from Shabbos. Gabi Shabbos manon. How do we attack when it says you're not allowed to work your animals? It's referring to all types of animals. The sign Rabbi Yosi Amr Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. It says b'dibros harishonis, when it comes to the first of the 10 Commandments, as Torah or says Shemos Chaf, obviously in Parshas Yisro. Nemar, it says Avdacha ve'amoscha ve'hemtecha. So it mentions and your animals. B'dibros hachrainos nemar v'shorcha v'chamorcha v'chol behemtecha. Interesting. In Parshas Veschanan, when it talks to the Aseres Dibros, when it comes to Shabbos, it doesn't just say v'hemtecha. It adds v'shorecha v'chamorcha, which is interesting. Why does it have to do that? V'loisha v'chamor b'chalal kol behema hayu. So if that's true, why does the pasuk have to say shor and chamor? It's already included in behema. V'lomi yotza. So why is it excluding these specific things? Why are they pointing these out? Masha v'chamor ha'amar b'kan chay v'oiv ki yotz behen av kol chay v'oiv ki yotz behen. Just like by shor v'chamor, we said there that when it comes to that, all the dinim apply. So too, anytime it says shor v'chamor, for example, by prika, chasima, etc., it's chay oif and kiyotz behen. Okay. So emo behema de dibros rishonos klal. Maybe the first aseres dibros, it says vehem techa, that's including everything. Shor v'chamorcha de dibros achraynos prat. So they're pretty far from each other, but then that's a klal, then a prat, and then you have therefore klal prat in b'chal mashab prat. Shor v'chamor in midachmin eloi. Maybe you just can't work these animals, but any other animals you could. So Amri v'choyel behemtacha d'dibros achraynos chaz v'kol. It's another klal. Therefore, it's a klal prat klal until the lokim in a prat. So ma prat before when it comes to shor v'chamor bali chayim. So I've kol bali chayim, anything alive. So as we said before, the same kasha ve'ema ma haprat maforish davar shenivilaso matam b'magam ma'asa. I've kol davar shenivilaso matam b'magam ma'asa v'oifos loy. As we said, birds, when they become a carcass, they're not matama by touch or by masa. So maybe we're excluding birds. So Amri imkein nichtav rachmana chad prata. So only mention one. So as we said the same thing before. So hey nichtav rachmana ikas rachmana shor havamina karbagam mizbeach in china karbagam mizbeach loy. Maybe the whole din of keeping Shabbos with a particular animal is one that's roy from the mizbeach, but not a chamor. Kasav rachmana chamor. The ikasav rachmana chamor havamina kaddish mebachar in, which is a bachor, which is these types of a chamor. Shein kaddish mebachara lo. Kasav rachmana shor, as we said, like a sus and all these other animals are not kaddish b'bachara. So therefore, you need shor v'chamor already. So ella, therefore, that's the case. You can't say you only need one and not the other. You just write one, not the other. You need both. Ella v'chol behemtacha, the v'choil is riboihu. That's including. V'chol heichad kasav rachmana kol riboihu. Is it true whenever it says the word kol, it's inclusive? But gabi meiser, when it comes to the din of a meiser, the din is, the pasuk says, "D'chsiv koil." It does say kol, but kol darshin kol prat, and instead of saying it's just a riboy, we say kol prat. The sign of a satakesa b'koil. It says when it comes to the din of a meiser that you can use anything. Asher tavanavshacha is klal. It's pretty generic. And then it says specific animals, but bakar, specific things. Bakar v'tzayin, v'yayin v'sheich or prat. V'chol asher tishach al nafshach, anything you desire, anything that you. So chaz v'kal, so kal prat, kal yitel el kena prat. Ma prat, maforish pri mepri, uguduli karka. This is, again, this is also an Erevin, right? The second paragraph of Erevin. That's pri mepri. What is that? When it comes to Meiser Sheni, being paid to Meiser Sheni, it says Rashi, Vlad me Vlad, Yain me Anavim, which like wine from grapes, V'shecher me Tamarim, beer from dates, Limute Kaminu Pitrios, coming to exclude truffles and mushrooms, Umayim Melech, water and salt, De'enu Pri me Pri. Also, Geduli Karkli Mute Dogim, fish, She'enu Nikachin Bekesav Meiser. You can't use fish because they are not considered to be have grown from the ground because they came from the water. So I've called pri of geduli karka. So Amri bakoil klola. When it says the word bakoil, that is a klola. It does include. However, koil is a riboy. So there's a chiluk between the word bakoil and koil. Iboy seima, or you can say another. Iboy say another answer. Kol nami kolhu. Real when it says kol, that also is inclusive. So therefore, miu high call the hacharibohu. Over here is a riboy. Why? Because it could have just said vehemtacha, which is what it said in the first of the 10 Commandments. Because of the chol behemtacha, and right v'chol behemtacha shemam no riboy. Obviously, v'chol must be coming to be inclusive. So hashni amikol ribohu behemtacha the dibros rishaynais the sheva chamor the dibros hakonas lamali. If that's the case, then why do you need to have the word behemtacha in the first of the 10 Commandments and shor chamor added by the second ones? Samri shor lagmuri shor lachasima. The reason why it says shor is to have exer shava, that the din also applies to chasima by muzzling, refers to all animals. Chamor, why does it say chamor? Lagmuri chamor leprika. That we should learn exer shava, that when it comes to the din of unloading, it applies to all animals. Behemtacha, lagmuri behemtacha lekilayim. It's coming to tell us that the din of kilayim applies to other animals as well. So if that's the case, I feel adam litzar, even a person should be aser, says Rashi. Limsheich bekarein ima behema, to pull a wagon with its animal. You can't work, your servants can't work on Shabbos, just like it says your servants and your animals. So too, a person shouldn't be able to even be involved in the pulling of a wagon. A person is allowed to do these things. So he says, Papunoi, which is the B'nai Papunoi, which is the name of a place, Rashi says, Yoidei Taima, they know the reason, the hamils of this. Umanhu, who is the B'nai Papunoi? Rav Achmar Yaakov, because Omer Krol Man Yanuach, Abdacha Ve'amascha Kamoicha, that you should rest, your servants just like you. Lahanacha Hikdashtiv, the whole connection is only to resting. However, V'lo Davar Acher, but not to anything else. Says Rashi, Hanacha Hikdashtiv, Eved V'amal Behema of a little Indian Isser Acher. So this connection of Abdacha Maska to Behemtecha is Davka referring to the din of resting on Shabbos. However, not referring to anything else. So therefore, even though there's restrictions on animals, that does not include for other things a restriction on people. Okay, we're going to stop there. Question 3. Also, rabbis hakoil. So my custom behemtachal b'dibros rishonos. So as we said, it's coming to include 3 different things. B'gzer shava. It's coming to include prika. It's coming to include chasima, and it's also coming to include kilayim. Adkan.